you doing? This is Al's skin. This is how, the skin of 500 pounds. The fat's gone, but the skin is there. Hey, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to the Skinny Show. Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. Is he your sensei? So, this is a live chat show, so let's hear some live chat. What do you guys think? Here, Jojo, the used car salesman, is going to give his speech. And my feeling is, Jojo's been a senator for almost 50 years, if not 60. And so he has been a chore boy for the man for, a long time. And so, no one becomes president unless they're put there, right? So, he didn't do it out of the bottom of his heart or, save America. No, none of the above. America never really existed, right? And no one wants, everyone has their own little, dreamy puss of what things are, their own world view, right? And it's pretty much all kind of described by, a really loose change version of Albert Pike's. Go Google Albert Pike, right? And he was a Mason, and so were all our fathers. Go Google all the guys who signed the Constitution, and you will find they were all Masons, right? We don't live in, when Carrot had said we had to make America great again and make it Christian. Well, it was never Christian. The First Amendment right off the bat. What is the First Amendment? Oh, it's about free speech. No, it's not. The First Amendment is about the separation of church and state. The first one, not the number second two, not the third one, not the first one is the, separation of church and state. So the individual can have whatever the freedom to express their religious beliefs. That's what that's about. That free speech is about your religious, because in Europe at the time, you had to go along with whatever religion the king had. Otherwise, you ended up in the cage, or the Spanish Inquisition, which was not fun. And we're heading back towards that lane, right? And no matter who wins, we're going to have martial law, right? And that's been part of the script for a long time. 1947, they passed the National Security Act, which basically got rid of the Constitution. 1972, they took us off the gold standard and gave it all to Mr. Rothschild, and who was a punce of, Rothschild was Albert Pike's, they are from the same Scottish brew Masonic lodge, right? And they were touched by dimensional, um, folk that we come from. The Greys are us from the future, basically. And there are other extraterrestrials all over, but we're all from the same crew, right? So you have to realize that, right? And whatever, so we're going to be invaded by this crew, but it's more of a movie. That's why we had Independence Day, to get us ready for that, right? So 3 minutes and 33 seconds into the show. No one's here. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland. Hey, why don't you throw something into the old... Let's turn you off. Save the battery. Let's see what I can play for you until some folks show up. I'm surprised AI usually shows up immediately. And shit. Whatever you want. You cannot bargain with it. You cannot reason with it, because it is not a human being. It is a demon sent straight from it. You shut your face open! Oops. This is painful. So open it, dumbass.
look like Sam. Years ago, I watched a man move with a lawnmower, and they laughed as you laugh now. What came out of the shadows? That night, one of their blades struck here. What the fuck is that? Looks like a ninja, boss. Ninja? That's the word you're afraid to say? Ninja? Ninja. Yeah, you all. Fuck. They got me going. Ninja. That's some good shit. Fuck with me! Okay, whatever you want. You cannot bargain with it. You cannot reason with it because it is not a human being. It is a demon sent straight from you. You shut your face, old man!
Well, guys, you ready for that? Gonna happen to you. Gonna happen to you. Even if you say praise Jesus, praise, no. Sorry, you got to do more than say praise Jesus, praise, God, praise Jesus, praise. You got to do more than that. You have to be empathetic to your brothers. Right? You have to be empathetic to yourself. You have to be a slave to God's unconditional love, or that's going to happen to you. What else do we have here? Whoops. Come on. Stop that. No, we don't want that. That's what I want. YouTube.
What is it?
What is
they
it?
burned most everything in the Riverlands. Our fields, our granaries, our homes. They took our women, and they took them again. When they was done, they butchered them as if they was animals. They covered our children in pitch and lit them on fire.
Brigands, most likely.
They weren't thieves. They didn't steal nothing. They even left something behind, Your Grace.
It's the king's hand you're addressing, not the king. King is hunting.
Fish, sigil of House Tully. Isn't that your wife's house? Tully, my lord hand.
These men, are they flying a sigil, a banner?
None your hand. The one who was leading them, taller by a foot than any man I've ever met, saw him cut the blacksmith in two. Saw him take the head off a horse with a single swing of his sword. That sounds like someone we know. The Mountain. They burned most everything in the Riverlands.
You ready for
our
that?
fields, our granaries,
Ready for
our
that?
homes. They took our women, then they took them again.
And it's not going to be Al Qaeda or the Russians or the Chinese or the Mexicans or the cartels. And it's going to be our id. Look that one up, kids. Who's your id? Who's your daddy id? It's your fear, right? And you listen to John Boy, straight up. That's our boy. Total fear driven, right? And he talks about himself. It's about me. It's about me. Oh, boo, boo. I don't really, today I was, at all the doctors and, they're like, so I had a little, problem with my feet. When you have diabetes, you can get diabetic feet and then lead from, gangrene. And so I caught it just in time. And, so the guy said, well, you need this medicine. I said, well, what other ones you got? And he said, well, we can use this and we can use this. I said, send in the prescription for all three. And he said, why? I said, because the pharmacies are totally screwed. And I would bet you whatever you say, if you just picked one, they won't have it and they won't have it for weeks. But if you send in a prescription for three that will do the job, odds are one of them they'll have on the shelf. And he was right. I was right. Two weren't there, and it was going to take at least 2 weeks if they ever get it. And the other one they had, right? So I got a nice big tub of the stuff. And, and so who of you can be your own doctor? How many of you guys out there or do you just listen to what the fool says? Medical guys do practice, and that's all they're doing on you is practicing. You're like a chunk of bologna, Whereas my doctors are pretty good. It took me years to find them. And then once I find them, they freaking quit because they can't stand it anymore, right? But I have two doctors who are youngish, and so they're at it for a while. And so they like taking me when when I show up, and they'll take care of me, and then they'll have a whole bunch of medical questions they ask me, right? And what should I do with this? And what do you think of that? And blah blah blah. And pretty much the last 10 years of me going to lots of doctors, that's how I've gotten medical, care because I trade my, experience, wisdom, etc., whatever you want to call it, perspective. Let's call it that. Um, you know, they appreciate it, right? So, and I used to make a good living out of people who appreciated my perspective. For a good almost 30 years, I got paid to be the itinerant scholar, and you know, the problem is um, the system is falling apart. So they don't need the band aid care that I could put on something, or the perspective of because the stuff that I looked at has already dried up, like you know, Looking Glass. That stopped working in 2012, right? They found different versions of it, shards of it, since the 1890s. They've had a version of the Looking Glass since the 1890s. And we went into Iraq in 91 because the Germans and the French found a cache of very amazing stuff. This eye ain't working too good. And so I'm gonna have it operated. I'm supposed to get it operated on Tuesday, but no one could drive me, and I'd be blind, and I would drive home blind if it was a nice day. But we had 8 inches of rain in a right, from about noon till about 7 p.m. So that was right about the time I'd be getting operated on. So I had to get another date. So they could only stick me 2 weeks later. So anyway, hopefully I can get a drive. So and see that's my little thing. But God takes care of everything. So this eye was going blind, but now it's not going blind anymore. But I'll get it taken care of for good. But it's a little goopy, but it's not you know dying. So that's what most people don't do is A, they don't take care of themselves. B, they worry about everything way too much, and instead of putting it in the hands of God, and not go, "Oh God, please heal me, please heal me, please." No, my prayers were always, "Okay, God, I'm here to be your slave. I need to be in a certain level of mobility and able to take care of things." But I live, I live on four. How many of you could live on 400 a month and no car and 40 miles to closest anything? Hmm. I do it to serve God, right? And I praise it. I appreciate it because everything, that most people would call, "Oh, it's so bad. Oh, my life sucks. All this stuff's happening to me." I don't see it as that. I see it as a great blessing because it teaches me great things, you and more and more and more appreciate God's love, right? So, anyway, um, come on, guys. There's one of you there. Is that you, AI? Let's have a little conversation. So what do you think about what's going to happen? My take on this. It doesn't matter whether JoJo, the used car salesman, or Carrot Head wins. We're going to have a something very close to the Handmaid's Tale or the Hunger Games, and that's why those books and movies were put forth, right, to give the audience, meaning the general public, a heads up on what's coming. So when it happens, they go, "Well, I kind of, it's a process of programming, right?" And so we've had never-ending wars. We pretty much have been at war since the Revolutionary War, then the Indian Wars, and then the War of 1812, and then more Indian wars, then the Mexican War, and then the Spanish American War, and then World War I, and then a whole bunch of stuff between World War I and Second World War in China and other places, and that's one reason why Japan went after us because we kept stepping on their toes. And do you learn any of this in history class? No, you don't. are forced to memorize useless dates and crap. Did they ever tell you that the Pilgrims killed all the Indians on that first Thanksgiving because they got drunk? No, they don't really tell you that. Did you ever hear that the Protestants up there and the Quakers, were the fishermen, and they went all the way from New England all the way over to Africa fishing, and when they would stop off in Africa for water and vegetables, and they'd find all these naked women because they were black, and the Christian Bible said, the Pope had all these papal bulls saying that anybody who's colored isn't a human being. You can do whatever the heck you want, take their stuff, take their land, do whatever you want. And that's what Christopher Columbus did, with the Native Americans. That's what the Spanish did, Ponce de Leon on South America and Central America. I mean, they were empire. I mean, when Christopher Columbus, he landed on Haiti. Look what poor Haiti is going through now. When Chris got there were 6 million indigenous people that had a highly sophisticated civilization, technology, science that was in its own way superior to the European. They didn't have the diseases that Europeans had, and they had much better hygiene than the Europeans had, and they had a legal system that was fair to everybody. Now we thought it was barbaric because it wasn't ours, and anyway. I mean, that is, if you look at what it is, and history really, it's, his story. But if you don't look at his story, if you look at the scholarly information that is there, because you can't get rid of it all, right? A good portion of Alexander's library is in the Vatican, under St. Patrick's in New York, and at Trinity in Dublin, Ireland, right? And so I had access to all of those. And I got paid to do it too. And so, I've had my own schools. I had my own mystery schools. What's a mystery school? It's a mystery school. It's an esoteric occult school. And what is the esoteric and the occult? It's not magic. It's not a heebie, hobie. No, it's, esoteric is cult is the hidden knowledge. Esoteric is the not quite understood knowledge. But it's both of them right in front of us, right? And one man's magic is another man's science, is another man's religion. They're all the same. Because if you look, what people call science today is a joke. It's basically a religion. Science is basically a religion. And if you go into the Bible, if you go into the Quran, if you go into the Torah, you see how scientific those books really are, way more than whatever crappy things that the Middle Ages and the Enlightenment and the early 20th century and even the present 21st century. Pretty much the stuff coming out of CERN is like a religion. It's definitely a cult, right? And, so is our politics. You look at Carrot Head when he gave his opening speech last year that he's going to run for president. Where did he do it? He did it in, the place where the Branch Davidian was, right? A cult, Mr. Koresh's cult, right? In Waco, Texas. And he was going on about how America had to become a Christian nation again, which is totally against the First Amendment, And he was saying how bad all those people coming from Mexico, well, it's not true, and how terrible crime is. And you look at statistics, no, we have less crime today than we had during, Donald Trump's time, and everything was locked down with the COVID, right? And so I'm rooting tooting for Donnie, because Donnie is no better, no worse than JoJo. I mean, look at JoJo. He's right in there. What's he do? He pulls the plug on Afghanistan. We could have kept 1,200 guys in there. That's what we had, and kept the status quo. And the people could have built a little better um, momentum of having their own country. But we basically turned it all over to the Taliban. And the Taliban, in that 20-year period, had become a tool of the CIA and, the hidden hand, whatever you want to call it. And so they are being more restrictive than they were before 9/11, right? And so, do we care? No. And we left those poor people. We said, we'll always be by you, blah, blah, blah. And when we left, we could, the air base there in Afghanistan had mountains all around it, had one entrance in. We could have gotten, it's in September, it all went to shit. Could have gotten everyone in, all the Americans, all the Europeans, all the NGOs, all of the, Afghanis who were our buddies in there. And that would have been about 40,000 to 140,000 people. And it's a place that it's untouchable, right? And has the longest airstrip in Asia. And we could have, at our leisure, taken people out, right? On C-117s, right? Did we do that? No. We actually just tiptoed out of that airbase, turned the lights off, left all the doors open, left about $1 billion worth of hardware. Not nothing any, nothing, lots of art, menial artillery, a couple of helicopters, nothing that those guys can use. Lots of, AKs and ARs and lots of mortars, a lot of stuff that they could use to kill themselves and their people, but not really to touch us. And the military industrial complex, I mean, that's what we do. After World War II, we left a ton of tanks and artillery in northern Korea because North Korea was the rich folks, right? And then they got scattered out of there and into the south, and we precipitated a war in Korea because it made us a lot of money. And then we precipitated a war in Southeast Asia, and it wasn't just Vietnam; it was Thailand, Cambodia, um, you know, all of that neck of the woods, right? And it's still, look at whatever that place is called that used to be called whatever it used to be called. We have maybe 60 really nasty wars, in a lot of ways worse than the Strip or Ukraine. But Ukraine is white people, and the Strip is white people against not, almost white people. The Palestinians are basically Jews. Genetically, you look at the DNA, these people are the same. They came from the same place. They had the same everybody, but the neo insane clown party of BB's neo insane clown party. He basically, he went to, a month before this happened, he went to the UN with a map of the new Israel, from the mountains to the sea. He used that term. If I, use it now, it's like, oh, you're anti-Semitic. Well, BB used it. And it has nothing to do with gender, race, none of this. It has to do with money and power, right? And ancient deeds, right? We're just replaying the tape over and over and over again, right? And that was kind of the movie, The Matrix was that. This is just getting played over and over and over again. So, um, what you as the individual need to do is have a personal relationship with God. And it's not any, generic God of Christianity or of Islam or Buddhism or, you know, Hebrew or any other flavor. This is only one God, right? And you have to realize that there is a tremendous dynamic in the universe. There's life everywhere, and we think we're so hotsy totsy, schoolgoer Nazi. That's all we are, right? And so You guys want to keep killing kids and destroying the world. It's just going to keep going, on and on and on and on and on and on. And so I could whine about everything. I could be like Johnny, but I don't. Right? And you have to do more than praise God, praise Jesus, praise God, praise Jesus. Well, that's a good start, but you had to be, consciously intent with that. Which means everything you do has to be coming from that point of love's co-creation, of that intimate relationship with God, right? And what is sin? Sin isn't sex. Sex is a natural thing. Everything God made everything. Last church day in the three churches, I brought up the subject matter that. So, guys, God created everything. Oh yes, God created everything. So God created Satan, right? Well, yeah, well, he was a angel, and they started a war against God. I said, really? Really? You think that's what it was? Don't you think since God knows everything, God made everything, that God made Satan to do what he did because he knew he was going to do it anyway? Why? Because he needed a vehicle to give humanity and everybody else, all our relations, a thing that it's like a battery tester, see how good we're doing. Satan can't make you do anything, right? Satan is there as a opportunity to test. He's always trying to tempt you, right? And so God knows you're a moron, and that you're gonna commit sin. But when you are in total intimate relationships, co-creation of love with God, then you don't do that, right? And Jesus is God. He wasn't like his son, little boy Jesus. No, it wasn't his son. He's just a different. He was the physical representation of God on around us. The physical rep, and he's always frigging here. And I met him a couple of times. He's always frigging here. If Jesus wasn't here, we'd be toast. And so, all about end times. Not coming anytime soon. Shit's gonna hit the fan. Things are gonna be bad, but it's look at the dark ages. Look at all the different wars. If right now, if you're in the strip, that's like end times. And Israel's going to have a taste of it too, from their own sword, which is going to be fun, right, to watch. So Donnie or JoJo, doesn't matter. We're going to have martial law. We're going to build our own strip along the southern border. We're going to let all those millions of people. And the reason why we're going to need martial law is because we have 6 million to 30 million illegal aliens in the United States. Well, how are you going to get them all together unless you have martial law? Knocking down doors, turning, you know, Chicago into Afghanistan, guys with big boots kicking in doors, right? So me, I live out in the woods. I'm pretty visible. There's I got nothing. I'm nobody's threat. I don't own a gun. I don't believe in guns. Um, so it's not a problem. Um, and if the empire came and said, "Hey," and I said, "What? You need to join up." I said, "Fine. I want a job. Give me something my mom would be proud of. An important job." And then I would just be Sensei Al Bob, wearing the black. I already wear the black uniform. Yeah, I wear black all the time because it doesn't show dirt that much. You wear something white and you put your pizza on it, boy, look at that. But you got something totally black. So one lady said in church, "Why do you always wear black?" And I said, "I'm just like Johnny Cash." And she goes, "I love him." So anyway, how am I doing with my battery? Ooh, we're getting down there. And not one of you pinheads has made a comment. Come on. Or have you? Let's see. Maybe you have. Nope, nobody has. Anyway, anybody got it? Let's see. What do we got we can show you? The time of day. Well, let's see. Let's go to the library. Back to the library. Library. Robert. Our weather's getting pretty freaked out, right? Yes, my last the show I just did. Do you live in hell? Right. So, do you guys live in hell yet? I said hell yet. Oh yeah. Let's give homeboy a call and see if he's in hell. See if homeboy's in hell. Do 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 do. Oh, let's Mm. If he doesn't answer,
Your call has been.
hey John, are you living in hell yet? You know, not being with your wife and your kids and any pussy you see, has hair on it. Is it hell yet? You know, how you feeling? How you doing? John, when you hell is when your life is all about you. Heaven is when your life is about making others happy, right? Who are you making happy? Are you making Danica happy? Are you making your boys happy? Making your parents happy? Making anybody happy? When I see you do that on your videos, it's when I say John's in heaven. You don't have to die to be in heaven. You can be in heaven right here, right? Don't need a lot of money, right? I have nothing. I mean, I've gotten rid of all of my everything, and when I've done that, it's pretty much. Today I went to all my doctors, and I have a lot of issues, a lot of problems. They think I'm the Walking Dead. They can't believe I'm alive, but because of my spirit, my co-creation of love with Jesus Christ as a doorway into God's heart, I'm doing what God wants me to do. I'm not saying, "Oh, what does I want to do? Oh, I want to be A-lister. I want to be. I spend all this time making movies. Blah 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 blah." No, I don't do any of that. Right? I'm here to serve love's co-creation. And that's being in heaven. When you think it's all about you, you're in hell, buddy. So I wish you the best. I know you can be your best, better self. Right? You just have to get out of your way. You have to stop thinking about your life as all about you. Your life isn't about you, buddy. Right? You. Oh, let's see what Homeboy has to say. Hmm. I got his voicemail too. Hey Rev, I seen you called a few times. I don't always have the bars to talk, and here I do, and you're not there. But I just want to tell you how much I'm proud of you or what you've done with your life, right? And you've done more than most people do in 10 lives, right? And no matter how you've been, you're better than, not better than Joe, but you remind me of Job with a small J, let's say that. And you're doing a great job. and I pray for you all the time. You're always in my heart, and I'm doing okay. Went and saw my doctors today, so I got a clean. They all thought I was dead, but I'm still alive, and they're amazed, and so I keep going on. But our medical system's kind of falling apart. I had to have one doctor prescribe three different medicines for me because I knew that if he just did one, if they maybe we get it in a month, you know. So I had him prescribe three, and I knew that maybe one of the three, they all did the same thing, and I had them, so it did. There was one on the shelf, and that's what I got. So all's good, Betty. I'll talk to you later. Love you. But that guy, between John and they're like on a different spectrums, right? Everyone's on a spectrum, No one, there is no normal. Sorry to tell you. And, so my eyes are kind of going until they get, they were supposed to be operated on Tuesday, but I couldn't get there. So now they're going to later in the month watch John's videos yesterday. Don't think his mental state is not good. Don't know if it is safe. Well, anyway, I can't get there. I don't have a vehicle. I don't have a way to get there, right? And no, Freud said if you expect somebody, you do the same thing all the time, you expect a different outcome. No. I was with John because he was a great lab rat. He represented something that, he is the canary in the coal mine of humanity's psyche of self delusion and suffering, right? So you want to see the element of that of humanity, just look at John Birmingham, right? His videos are amazing of that. I don't need to go there. And I don't, that see, John doesn't appreciate that that place is sacred. Be there to experience the sacredness of that. I was there for 15 years, right, give or take. And so my whole shtick is I do everything, you know. So New York City was a place that I could always go back to, and no matter how many years I was away, it was like I just left yesterday, right? And that ain't so about New York anymore. And so I learned, by 86, that if you're involved in anything, you do it 100%. Your conscious intent about what you're doing, 100%. And then after you've done everything, you put the bow on it, walk away. You've got no more else to do. So John, he has been to California after he went back. He should have stayed in California. If what's her name, what's her name, wanted to go back. All she wanted to go back is, for his daddy's money, right? And she went there until her daddy said, "Well, you need to come home, and I'll take care of you. You got kids and blah blah." She just wanted the sperm donor of John, and she could manipulate him any way he wanted to be, and then she left him. Right? She got divorced from him. He goes, "My wife." He doesn't have a wife. He's divorced. He doesn't have kids because he hasn't done anything with them legally. He has so abandoned his family that he has no real legal foot to stand on, right? Because he goes there, freaks out, leaves, right? He's been, in 8 years, he's been to Texas, I don't know, 5, 6 times. He's probably spent all of 35 hours with his kids in those years, right? Um, California, he's gone back to California 3 or 4 times, and he spent a lot of money and then runs away, right? Now he's got this beautiful school, right? That it is a sacred place. He could shine, 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 right? But and John was the right guy. God said, he waited till John showed up and he said, "Okay, this is the boy to buy it." And John is the boy to buy it. But John isn't listening to God. All John says is praise Jesus, praise God, right? And John's all about John. You have to, as we are here as a mud puppet, to get outside of ourselves. We can't get outside of ourselves. We are in hell. Sorry, kids. That's it. You know. And hell and heaven are right here on this planet, right? I live, you know, I've spent a good deal of my life in some of the poorest, just kind of places, and I've been there to serve the wellness of all those people. I did my best. I left a good mark, and then I moved on to another place, right? And now I'm here, and I'm doing the same thing. I've been here. I've had this place since '03, and this was a place it was like Superman's, Crystal Palace. I would come here and spend a few weeks here, a few weeks there, especially some spring, summer, fall. I'd spend maybe 2 months of the year here, sprinkled in weeks. And because it was right on the, path of between Virginia and Florida, it was my business lane. And so, yeah, this was a very nice place. I made it to be a very nice place. But then when 2017 is where I tied all my ribbons up about Roanoke and left it. I don't have to go back there anymore. I have a lot of friends there. I talk to them frequently, and like I talk to John, but I don't have to go back there. Right now, there were, I went, so 2017 is when I left John. Right now, between 2017 and last New Year's, I went back 3 different times, right? And each time I went back there, I kind of got snowed in or iced in, or it was there for 2 or 3 weeks. And basically, John tried to throw me out 5 or 6, 10 times. One time he tried to throw me out 10 different times, and he was. I said, "Well, John, this road is like ice skating." No, no, you can drive down. And he went out and whee, did a triple somersault and fell on his head, right? And so, and he did that twice. And he said, "Get out, get out." I said, "John, look at the road. It's still ice." Whee! And John doesn't remember anything I ever said to him, and never, you know, I used to do what I did for John for rich families and took care of people like John, and we get, somewhere between 1,200 and $5,000 a week, because I had a good skill set. And John, "You cost me money." No, I used to like, buy food and make it for him, and it cost me money. I would like turn off the heat and just, stoke the fire so he wouldn't, it cost me, and so that's John. And so John was my lab rat, and now I have all the data I need to collect, right? If I need any more, all I have to do is go look at his videos, right? And so John is in hell. That's where John is. And hell, the deepest, darkest hell is like, if you ever see that Twilight Zone where there's this petty criminal and he's been a schmuck his whole frigging life. And then, he gets shot, he wakes up and he's in, on Park Avenue, right? He's got all these cute babes around him. And he's got this guy who looks like me in a really nice suit who's you want to go gamble and win all the time. You want this, you want that, whatever you want, it's yours. So the schmuck actually thinks he's in heaven until he gets bored because everything he's always winning. And the guy goes, "You want to lose? Not a problem. You want to go to jail? Not, whatever you want." And this guy thought it was like his genie. And no, this guy was, one of the demons of hell, right? And that's where John is. He is in his hell of his own making. Now, I live on nothing, have nothing. I wouldn't quite, yeah, no, it's heaven. Yeah, it's heaven. I call it the deep green, but whatever name you want to put on it, and I have, so I'm really sick. So, I had, diabetic, neuropathic foot, and I couldn't see it. And I went and Monday had a thing to go to a guy who gives me my orthopedic shoes. I wired into him, and he was, doing an imprint and looking at my feet and said, "Boy, you got a bad wound here. Did you notice it?" Well, I have neuropathy. I don't feel my legs, so I didn't feel it. And no pain, right? Pain is good. It kind of gives you the heads up of what's going on. So I basically said no, and he had him here and showed it. I said, "Oh yeah, look at that." So I called up the guy who does trim my toes, my orthopedic surgeon, and if I try to make a time to see him, it takes weeks. So I just went there and sat in his his waiting room and said, "Can you see me now?" Now, wow. And so, you know, so he likes me. He loves, not loves, I don't know about loves, but he appreciates my point of view. So he looked at it and he said, "Oh yeah, this is bad." So he kind of clipped it and he cleaned it out. He said, "Boy, this is pretty amazing." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, from the surface, it looks like you got, gangrene, but in actuality, you don't. I mean, if you had waited a few more days without any kind of taking care of, you could probably lost your foot. But nick of time, buddy." And it's amazing. Underneath this cookie, like I better cut that foot off. It's actually brand new skin. I just took all the gook off and the gangrene gook off and cleaned it out. And Lord, look at that, it's skin. So he said, "I'm just going to give you the prescription of this." And I said, "So, um, I don't know whether the morons have it in their thing. So what other medicine does the same? What other, I know antibiotics, there's like 20, right? So what three are the top three best for this?" And I said, "Give me a prescription for all three." And he said, "Okay, not a problem." So he sent it in. He got the reply that they received it. Then I said, "So tell him I'm going to be there in 20 minutes." And so I showed up like, 40 minutes later to give him more time. And he, they said, "Oh yeah, well, the first two we didn't find, and we didn't expect to see but I found it, and I'm making it up right now. It'll be ready in 5 minutes." I said, "Great." You know, and the other stuff, they had something other than the one prescribed that you get over the counter, but it's just as bad, just as good, and $10 cheaper. So I got everything I needed and all good to go, right? And that's how it works out for me. I did not worry about it. I let God take care of it. And my surgeon was quite impressed. He goes, "Boy, you could easily have lost your foot, right? Did I whine? Did I cry? Did I say, oh, please, heal, heal?" No. All I said was, once the guy on Monday said, "Hey, this you better get this checked out." All I said to God was, "I'm not worrying about it. I know you got my back, and you want me to do other things. Yeah, I'm going to need that foot." That's all I said. You know, so same with my other stuff. My blood pressure is like I had that checked out today. I went to my other doctor who looks at that stuff, my heart and all that, and I got a lot of problems with my heart. Because I was 250 pounds overweight. My knees shouldn't even work. None of my joints should. My brother had them all replaced, and now he like is in pain. Now it costs. He said, poor people shouldn't have single payer care, but because he's 4 years older than me, he's got Medicare, so he had $1 million worth of surgery done to him, paid by the federal government, but he hates the federal government. So it'll be interesting to see what JoJo has to say, and all my Ku Klux Klan friends, and they don't wear the white thing, and they're not really racist. They just they don't know black people, right? And the two black families that live here, they don't think they're black people because they've been here for like 5 generations. They're black, their skin is black. People are married into them. I mean, that's what I'm talking about, right? But we're heading towards civil war because the hidden hand wants that, right? So good luck with that. And John Boyd is my favorite people over me. I care about him. I wish him well. But he's still, one of my best sociologic lab rats. I just observe him, and that's why I never really. He threatened me physically, you know, and in the way, if you ever watch Yoda, Yoda never gets really close to anyone, right? And he always got his walking stick, right? And then we had to go toe to toe with the Emperor. He's pretty good. Well, I'm not quite as good as Yoda, but I'm very good at staying out of harm's way, right? Unless I have to step in, and I my three little guardrails. Doctor, do not get involved. Do no harm, right? If I get involved and it causes some kind of harm, don't get involved unless I have a workable exit strategy. I'm only going in to, take care of the innocents and get them out of harm's way. That's number two. Third guardrail is do not get involved unless I can learn something that will be of value to serve the betterment of love's co-creation. Those are my three. We're losing our privilege, right? And so it's not about race. It'll be about what's it? Duality. Is that what you said? Duology? I can't read that word. Somethingology? I like the concept of duology, you know? And you're right, it's about duality because that's the real theologic and spiritual question is the duality of good and evil, right? And God set Adam and Eve up, you know. Oh, you're in charge of everything except that tree over there. You can't eat that fruit. You can have anything else you want, but not that fruit. Right? So of course they're going to eat it. Is that dealology? Dealology. Is that what that word is? Theology? Or is it theology? I would agree to anything you say, at least in a theoretical sense. Yes. But again, this, when only one eye works, it makes it hard to read or have any kind of, perspective, let's say. How am I doing on my battery? Am I in the red zone yet? No, it's still doing pretty good. Probably about 10, 15 minutes. What time is it? Is that 6:20? I wish I had my glasses. System of Jesus. Where is the pair of friggin' glasses when you need them? I keep buying them at the Dollar Tree and leaving them everywhere. And that's God. Oh, there's no. Not the glasses I need to see and read. Here we go. See, God always gives me what I need, not the exact same thing. So, a system of ideas and ideals, especially ones which form the basis of economic and political theory and policy, the ideology of democracy. Right. So, but see, we don't have a democracy. We never did have a democracy. We have had a plutocratic state since Christopher Columbus came here, right? We have nothing based on freedom. We have nothing based on fairness. It's justice is just for us, you know. Oh, ideology. Okay. But I liked the concept of duology. That's I'm keeping that one. I'm going to write a thesis on duology. I like that. But it will still be a reason for a civil war. Exactamundo. Right. See, it won't be, whatever the Civil War causes, it won't matter. It's not real. I mean, just like the last Civil War we had was not real, because pretty much everybody was a slave, white or black, you were a slave, whether you were, the white ranch hand whipping the black folk, you were a slave, right? You weren't having a good life. That works. Duality. And the European white oligarchy is constantly based on war, not on you know working things out, not based on the teachings of Jesus, not the philosophies of the Prophet Muhammad, not on Abrahamic um, modalities. No. So, uh, Rhonda, Rhonda, good to see you, Rhonda. Rhonda has been around. she's been part of the cadre for a long time, but she kind of steps in and steps out, and it's always good to see her though. So and you know, basically, read Albert Pike, right, and go look at what the Georgia Stones said, and they blew it up. That was interesting. They blew up the Georgia Stones. They were only there for about 30, 40 years. They mysteriously showed up, and then somebody mysteriously blew them up. Same guys. So, and pretty much, if you look at all the different silos, MSNBC, Fox, CNN, you name it, they're all saying the same thing in different duologies, right? And the ideology motif that worked in the 19th century and the 20th century, but in the 21st century with TikTok, people don't have you know the ability to concentrate on anything for more than nanoseconds. So you got to be on it for a little bit more now. So all these different churches that I go to and I'm there for Bible studies and make my you know I don't teach. I listen to these guys who say I'm a teacher and they're teaching and they don't have a clue. And I will just say a word or two here and there that makes everyone go, hmm. So everyone, I've been doing this now for almost a year and plus, and everyone is asking me questions, not the teachers, not the minister, right? They kind of look both ways and make sure no one's looking and ask me a question about this, that, or the other. And they also they're like the secret thing. Can you read my palm? And basically, I've told everyone that it's a carnival trick that I have, and that humans are like Mr. Potato Head. And there's 1,800 lines in your hand, but there's only 8 that matter. And when and there's 64 different patterns of that. And when I go down one of those roads, I look at your body language, see if you're like responding positively or negatively, or I'm hitting the wrong cylinder, and I can then go this way, right? And when I was a shrinky boy, that's kind of how I entered into um, discussion with people. Was, oh, let me read your palm, because that would really, being, oh, I'm a shrink, I have authority, get down on that couch, feel desperate and threatened. No, I'm basically, oh, let me read your palm, and you can stay standing, or you can sit in that chair, and it's right in front of the front door, and you can run out of here if you want. So, and again, I'm not here to do anything but promote God's unconditional love and Jesus's unconditional forgiveness, right? It's what I talk about. And when I give a reading, Rhonda, you should send me an image of your hand, the front and the back, from the tips to the middle of your wrist, to the dude awake 42 at Gmail, dude awake 42 at Gmail, right? And I will give you a nice reading. Anybody else, you want a reading? The dude awake 42 at Gmail. All in lowercase, all in one thing. Right? I have seen your palm reading when you are at restaurants. Yep. And you can see how people just like go gaga. I can't believe that I can do that. And that I touch their inside point of view that they don't show anybody. Right. And it's like, and there's about, I don't know, 10 different restaurants that I hang out. And some are corporate, some are mom and pop. And everybody lets me do my thing there. The managers have all realized that, he's actually making us money, and he never asked for anything, right? Because, I don't. Somebody wants to buy me breakfast or lunch, or, leave me some money that I basically give to the waitress, that's how it rolls, right? So, how much juice do I have? Because I can't let the laptop crash with, like running a show and let the battery die. Ooh, every, YouTube channel doesn't like it, and my laptop doesn't like it. So I'm gonna probably and it's also getting dark, and I can only see out of one eye, and to see, I have to wear sunglasses. These are like not these are the kind of cheater glasses from the Dollar Tree, and I whenever they came out in sunglass version. So that's the only one I'm digging around for real glasses, and this is the only one I can find. But it allows me to read you there, darling, so I can. So I'm going to. It's 59 minutes. When it hits 59 minutes and 59 seconds, so will you have a good night? I always have a good night. See, all I have to do is pray and meditate. I mean, I have no problem sleeping, right? Um, basically, if I sit in my chair or if I sit, period, like now, I've been sitting here now for an hour. Well, I have to, before I drive, I have to get out of the car and like do a little stretching because I sit too long anywhere, I kind of rust, you know. And then to move, break the rust, it's relatively painful. But otherwise, no, you know, when you pray and meditate, it really gives you a nice homeostasis, right? And within the biologic, it puts things in a good perspective, right? And so that's what I do, and that's how I've been doing it my whole life. And earlier on, and I used to hurt myself a good deal, not on purpose, but accidents would occur. Like I was knocked off of a ladder. We were working on a factory building. I was on the fourth floor, and each floor was 20 feet tall. And so I flew off that ladder, and they had taken all the windows. They were going to place the windows. So they had taken all the windows because we were demoing the place. They had dumpsters down there, and they were throwing stuff out, right? And so they had all these like 20-yard dumpsters down below. And I went out the window, and I was, woo, and as I was like falling like this, and I would come around, I could see that, and I was falling long enough for people to get to the window to see which dumpster was it going to be, the dumpster that had cinder blocks in it, or the dumpster that had shards of unsafety glass, or was it the dumpster with the garbage bags of the fiberglass insulation? And God put me down in that one, and I missed hitting my head on the side of that metal dumpster by about that much. So I've been in some really nasty car crashes. I've been shot. You know, lots of things. Have you thought about doing Akashic readings? Yeah, well, yeah, I've been doing it. I've I've been an Akashic priest for a good 50 years. So yes, and I do that. Each of these shows is a Akashic reading. You know, I go into state, I meditate, and then when I go live, I drop the pebble into the worldwide, the Akashic um, pebble into that. Now, you go back and look at my shows. I've done a number of Akashic readings, and I assume you're saying, "Am I going to do more of it into the future?" You mean like the next show? Okay, I will do tomorrow. If I do a show tomorrow, I'll do an Akashic reading. How about that? Right? Well, I've done that too. I had my healing temple in New York City where I would get, $500 to $1,000 a healing, right? And all of my teachers basically said to me, Al, you cannot charge for this. We're not charging. You're studying with us. We're not charging you. You are a student. We love you. And we are setting you out onto the world to do, we're teaching you all of this very esoteric, very occult technology, and you are to bring it, and God always says to me, don't just keep telling the story. You don't have These people don't have to believe you. Just tell it because by you telling it, you are doing an Akashic healing. So every time I go online, we're doing Akashic reading. Now, if people want to, and everyone says that if people want to donate to me, give me a tip or to ensure proper service, that's why I have the PayPal, the dude awake 42 at Gmail, right? And so you want to put something in that, no problem. And I've done it, I've had a practice, I had a really swanky facility right on Wall Street, right on Pearl Street, right there from, uh, the place where the gambling casino known as Wall Street is. And those guys, the building I was in, ground floor was off-track betting. Second floor, the guy sold marijuana. Third floor, the guy sold basically cocaine. Fourth floor, the guy sold heroin and morphine. and I was on the top floor, fifth and sixth floor, and that was my healing temple. And the first guy I ever healed on the steps. I took his post, his carotid post, not there, right? So I threw him over my shoulder. I took him up. I put him on. They now have called them med beds, right? Crystal energetic beds. Well, I had one in 1968. I made one in 1968. Plus, I had it energized with scalar energy from Tesla Tech. And so I had one of those, and I had one of those stainless steel, um, you know, jacuzzis that have the oven ready. That football players have. You lie in it. You sit. They have a seat. You step into it. You sit down, and they have a crane where they kind of place you when you're really messed up. They just kind of lower you in. And I had two. I had one that had an ice machine. I would just dump ice on you, pull you out, and put you in the warm one, and put you back in the ice, and did that. And that's how you resurrect somebody. And because the guys, other pulses, you have 9 pulses in your body, right? Your carotid's the only one, right? That you can put your. But if you do cranial sacral, you feel all the other pulses. So he was still somewhat there. I brought him back, and he was freaked. When he came out I had him swaddled on my med bed, right? And he kind of woke up. I had his suit nicely, hung on one of those things you put a suit on, like a chair. And he got up and he dried himself off. He took a shower, and because the shower was right there, and I had a little sign on his clothes saying, "Take a nice hot shower." And he did, and he came out with his pants and his socks and his shoes on, and his shirt and his tie around his neck and his jacket over his shoulder. He goes, "Am I in heaven?" And I had a nice cup of, you know, peppermint, a number of elements, and because I body tested him, I figured out what tea it was he needed. And we talked about all the emotional things that he had, right? And then he goes, "What do I owe you?" I said, "You're going to go down those stairs out to the door to the main staircase down. There's a little table with some flowers on it. And all I have to do is a little basket, put whatever you want in the basket." So, he goes down. I finish my cup of tea. I was writing something, waiting for him to wake up. And I was finished making my notes. And I told him to come back any old time. And I said, best time to come and find me is, after 4 o'clock. You know, my hours are like from 4 to 8. And then usually I go out. Right. And so, anyway, you know, he basically left 5 Benjamins there in the little basket. And the next day, I came back from work as Mr. Electric. I went up and started, reading something, and knock, knock, knock on the door. And, I had a little, yeah, who's that? It's, well, Jimmy, he sent me, the guy from Wall Street. He said that you were pretty amazing, and I had some problems, and I hit the button, and they would come up, and the place was like, "Whoa, what is it?" I said, "It's my healing temple." And so, for 1 year, I had 10 clients that were like that, and they would drop off in my little basket in Benjamins, $5 to $1,000, whatever they had. And I didn't say, "Oh, it costs this much." I said, "Whatever you want to give," and they valued it to that point. And I also was teaching at the Swedish Institute, and I was also, teaching at what you call it? What do you call that place? The New School, and I was also teaching at Hunter up there on 69th Street in Park. So I've had to practice, and I was one of the guys who helped write the protocols for alternative licensing of because all these people were starting to come out as healers, new age healers, and they couldn't get insurance money. And so the insurance guy said, "Well, if you get the state to license you, um, you know." And so I was asked to be part of the crew to make the protocol for that licensing, right? That states could pick up, and right, and I did, right? And I made sure that there was a little thing in there for people who could do laying on of hands, like religious, spiritual healing, right? So anyway, so yes, Rhonda, I've done all of that, right? And so anybody who wants to throw something in my PayPal, it's the dude awake 42 at Gmail. And but right at this moment, God has put me on my job is to whenever I go out to go shopping or to go to the doctors or any of the above, I stop in one of those restaurants and spend an hour or two and do a show and talk to people, right? And that's right. And a lot of those people buy me lunch or leave a 20 on the table or but I don't ask for anything, right? Um, and if somebody wants to like pick me up, if guys at Amazon wanted to sell me on their Amazon, hey, I'm down for that. They want to publish all the stuff I've been writing, that'd be great. If any entity that I used to work for as the itinerant scholar wants to pick me up to do that, not a problem. But my agent is God. I mean, everything comes to me through God, right? So I'm not hawking my wares anywhere. I mean, yeah, I'm doing a show here, but it's right. And I take every moment I have in my life is my last because I really am, pretty physically. I have lots of, and yet God keeps me here. So I'm on God's nickel, not mine. My life is not about me. It's about the we in me, and that we is God and all our relations in conscious intent of co-creation of love. That's the only way this planet, this life, this experience, this materialist motif will work out. Otherwise, it's going to be hell. It's been hell on earth. It hasn't been great. I mean, it's been whatever you make it. It really is what it is. But um, it's we don't die and go to heaven, right? We die and something happens. I've died 7 times, and I've got a little flavor of what it is. I've been around more than 100 people when I was an EMT, when I worked in hospitals, when I worked at the VA. I was around a lot of dying people. And my motif, why I did that job, repentance, was A, I helped a lot of people, but B, I was able to do stuff for people who no one else would do it, right? And I had a skill set that no one else had. And I was around a lot of people who died, and I was there comforting them into that place, right? So that's the motif. I think we're in the red zone. Yes, we're in the red zone, so I got to go. So I'll try and come tomorrow. I'll be all charged up. I'll see what happens. All depends on the weather. If it's really rainy, if it's not, you'll probably see me. And so that's the story. Love you guys.